All right. Today we are going to move on and start talking about equations. Okay, equations, things like 3x plus 2 equals 7, things that you'll be learning in algebra, things that you'll be using whether or not you realize it throughout the rest of your life. Okay, and even daily in some jobs. Okay, lots of business jobs where you're trying to figure out what offer is better and things like that. You use equations without even realizing it. So I'm going to go ahead and teach you how to solve those. The first thing that you need to know, the guy talked about it in the video yesterday, but the number one thing is the golden rule of algebra. Okay. The golden rule of algebra is whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must, not if you want to, must do to the other. Okay, if you add 700 to one side, you must add 700 to the other. If you add negative 1 million to one side, you must add negative 1 million to the other. Okay, that's the only way that you can keep things balanced. That's the only way that you can get the right answer. We're going to go ahead and go through the steps. We talked about algebra tiles yesterday, and the same steps apply, but we're just going to actually give the steps names today. So, the steps for solving an equation. Okay, step one is to distribute. To distribute. We'll talk about what that means in just a minute, but just know step one is to distribute. Step two is to combine like terms. Okay, that is like terms on the same side of the equal sign. That's the only way they can be like terms. Step three is get the variables together. Step four is to get the variables alone. So first you're going to get them all on one side, and then you're going to get the variables alone. And then the last step is to divide by your coefficient. Divide by your coefficient. The last thing, little side note, if at step 5, if you're dealing with an inequality, at step 5, if your coefficient is negative, lots of ifs here, you must flip the sign, just the opposite direction. And you must flip the sign. That means if it's a less than, you change it to a greater than, and so on. You just flip it the other direction. All right. Now, the easiest way to learn how to use these steps is to apply them. So, the first one we're going to look at is a simple one. It's not going to use all the steps. So the first example we're going to look at is a little bit simpler. Okay, so 3x minus 2 equals 2x plus 7. Your first step is to distribute. Distribution involves parentheses. If you do not have any parentheses, you will not have to distribute. to combine like terms is on the same side of the equal sign. So you look at this side. X's and numbers are not the same. Those are different types of terms. You've got variables and you've got constants. These would be a variable. This would be a constant. Okay, so we don't have anything there. On the other side, you've got a variable and a constant. You don't have any like terms. So we go on to step 3. Step 3 is to get your variables together. From here, it does not matter which variable you cancel out. You can cancel out the 3 or you can cancel out the 2. If you cancel out the 3, you're going to end up with a negative number on this side. I take the small variable and cancel it out to the large variable. Okay, you find the smaller of the two variables, and that's the one you get rid of. To cancel something out, you always do the opposite. Okay, and we've got to keep our golden rule in mind. So if we subtract 2x on this side, whatever we do to one side of that equal sign, you've got to do to the other. So we're going to subtract 2x on this side. You must keep things together. You cannot subtract 2x from your 2. If you try to do that, you will get the question wrong pretty much every single time. Your types of numbers must stay together. Okay, these two x's, a positive 2x and a negative 2x, we learned yesterday on our algebra tiles, those cancel out. Okay, that makes a 0 pair. Leaves us with just 7 on this side is equal to, we didn't do anything with that, negative 2, so we just bring it down. 3x minus 2x gives us 2 0 pairs, which leaves us 1x, or we could have just written x. Yeah, that's okay too. You don't have to have that 1 there. Anytime you've got just an x, the 1 is implied. Okay, next step is to get the variable alone. So we're going to find our variable, and we're going to get rid of whatever's with it. Okay, you get rid of something by creating a 0 pair, doing the opposite, adding the opposite. So we're going to add 2 to this side. We're going to add 2 to this side. When we do that, we're going to bring that 1x down. That cancels out. We get equals 7 plus 2 is 9. So now if you went back and plugged this in, you would get the same thing on both sides. 3 times 9 is 27 minus 2 is 25. 9 times 2 is 18 plus 7 is 25. So you get 25 is equal to 25. That's our goal, is to get something that makes this equation up here equal on both sides. That's what the equal sign is telling us to do. If that had been an inequality, we would want something different. But since it's an equal sign, that's what we're going for there. Let's look at another example that changes things just a little bit. Adds another step or two. So you got 4 minus 5x equals 2x minus 8 minus x. Okay, the first step is to distribute. No parentheses. We don't have to distribute. We'll go to step 2. To combine like terms. Now, with our like terms, I've got a constant. Remember, it's got to be on the same side of the equal sign. I've got a constant and a variable here. And on the other side, I've got a variable, a constant, and a variable. So I need to put those two together. If I have my algebra tiles, I know this 2x would be 2 green rectangles. This x would be a red rectangle. And that would create us a 0 pair. So we're not changing anything on this side. We've got a 0 pair here. If I have 2 x's and I subtract 1x, that leaves me with just 1x left minus 8. Now, all of a sudden, this equation's a lot simpler. It's a lot like the one that we just did. You followed those same steps. Step 3, get the variables together. I found the smaller one. I've got a negative 5x and an x. So I'm going to add 5 because negative 5 is smaller than x. I'm going to add 5x on both sides. Make sure you add to the x. That's a 0 pair. 5 0 pairs, actually. So we have 4 equals x plus 5x gives us 6x's total minus 8. Now I'm going to take my variable and I'm going to get rid of its buddy. Get rid of its buddy by doing the opposite. So we're going to add 8 to get our variables alone. That's step 4. That's a 0 pair. Remember, my equal sign's staying right there all the way down. Gives me 12 equals 6x. My last step is to divide by my coefficient, which is 6. So divide by 6. And we get 2 equals x. If you go back in and plug that into your equation, you see that 4 minus 10 is negative 6. And then over here, you've got 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Minus 2 is negative 6. Everywhere there's an x, you would just plug in that 2 and solve that equation. You can put it in a calculator or whatever to check yourself. There's no reason to ever miss these questions. You can always take your answer and go plug it in everywhere there's an x. Put you some parentheses and put your 2 in there. And that gives you what your answer should be. Put this side in your calculator, hit enter. Put this side in your calculator, hit enter. If you get the same answer, then you did it right. There's only going to be one right answer. So if you get it right, then you're good. Excuse me, I've been talking a lot today. Okay, the next example is going to use all of our steps just so that you can see them all. So we're going to get down here and get some more space. You should have those.